yesterday. Because I just wanted to tell you that those are the best artists I've ever had.
Oh, I didn't think they were very special. They didn't have any nut butter in them, but thank you.
I thought they were really good.
Okay.
You know, I don't know what it was.
We do a lot of cooking here. We have different kinds of sweets. A lot of the things on our menu are very ancient recipes from India. Maybe you've had any Indian vegetarian food, but this is all offered to God, so it's not ordinary food. It's transcendental, spiritual. Like puris or ladus or samosas or sabji. We're having Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Okay.
All day, all afternoon and evening. It's all vegetarian, and but not necessarily vegan. So if you're vegan, are you vegan?
No.
So we are lacto-vegetarians. We use milk products are offered, but no meat, fish, or eggs. And it's the donation for the dinner is $9.50 all you can eat. So it's a good bargain. Right, Marcy? Are you from San Diego?
No.
Oh, where are you from?
I come from Hawaii.
Hawaii. How beautiful. I love Hawaii.
Yeah, it's nice.
Are you from the Big Island or Maui or Hawaii or Oahu?
Oahu.
Oahu. We had a friend here, his name was Babu. He taught at SDSU, and then he moved to the Big Island, and he was teaching at the University of Hawaii there for quite a while. But then he's older, he's older than me, so he kind of gave everything up just to, study his spiritual master's books, and he's very happy, but yeah, he really loved Hawaii. He lived there for years. Were your parents in the military?
No, they just immigrated there.
Yeah. Hawaii's such a beautiful place. We actually have a temple in Oahu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, me and my daughter visited there when she was about 7. I guess she was about 18. Yeah, we have a temple. You have to, it's like this way. Here's the water, and it's this way from the diamond there. And then up this way a little bit. Actually, there is a street. I'll look it up in a bit. Are you on vacation?
I'm here for school.
He's going to USD.
That's the hill.
Yeah. It's a Catholic university, very highly acclaimed.
Who was Jaya Prabhu?
Oh, Prabhupada? That's a Murti. Srila Prabhupada brought this knowledge from India because some people had come and brought Bhagavad Gita, but it was an impersonal understanding. And not a single person became Krishna Bhakta or started practicing Bhakti Yoga from any of these other people. So Prabhupada, on the order of his spiritual master, came here and he translated the Bhagavad Gita very shortly after he came. And he came with another book called Srimad Bhagavatam, which is really the ripened fruit of all the Vedic literature. So this Murti was made by a devotee friend of ours. His name is Lochan, and he's a famous sculptor. He even did a bust of Ronald Reagan years ago, and he's very talented. So you'll see every Hare Krishna temple you go to, you usually see looking a little bit different, but you'll see a Murti. We call it a Murti of Srila Prabhupada. He passed away in 1977 in spiritual world, and his books are still available in his books. And we should be having class in just a couple of minutes. So you live your whole life mostly in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not a bad place to go. Are you a good swimmer?
Not really.
You get to Hawaii? Yes. Our spiritual master said that Hawaii is probably, if not the most beautiful place on the planet. He was very happy when the temple we have there was actually paid for by Alfred Ford.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Time out. The gentleman needs a sheet. What's going on here? Something with the deities, I'm sure. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. James Spad Paramahansa, Bhagavadgitacharya, Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavadgitacharya, Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 22nd day of November 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 403, chapter, The Most Confidential Knowledge, text number 23. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam. Parashakti, Mataji. Text 23, page 403. Okay, Marcy, you go first. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam. Go ahead. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kunteya yajant avadipurvakam. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva kunteya avidhi yajant avadipurvakam. Yea, those who, api, also, anya, of other devata, gods, bhaktaha, devotees, yajante, worship, shraddhaya anvitaha, with faith, te, they, api, also, mam, me, eva, only, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, yajanti, they worship, avidipurvakam, in a wrong way. Translation: those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Purport. Quote, persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly, Krishna says. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to apply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is one of two places, especially where Krishna is describing the worship of the demigods. In the 7th chapter, we read a while back, he described how, he says, Daivi yeshu gunamai mama maya duratya, that this world is very difficult to overcome, meaning that we're kind of in a bind here. The basic principle of Bhagavad Gita is that we're spirit, not matter, and that the spirit is eternal, but matter, obviously, of its physical body is temporary. It has a birth date, it has a death date, and in between, we identify with this body as us. But that's a big mistake. We're actually pure spirit. And the real problem we have is that we have forgotten entirely our spiritual nature, or identified with our material body. And we can never be really happy or peaceful in this situation because it's always changing. No matter what good situation we're in, we try to get, it always changes. And eventually we come to the point of a whole thing changing, and we're dying and moving on to the next body. There's no death of the soul. Soul does not die when the body dies. So what happens to it? It goes on to another body. So this is as Srila Prabhupada, the author of the commentary, mentions here, there's like a big government running this universe, which we can't really see. It's just like, we're just like children in the ordinary world. They have no idea how things are going on. You know, the parents are paying their taxes, they're driving in a certain way, but the children just are unaware of the government because they're not eligible to know. So similarly, we're blind to this big government, so we have some idea of the natural laws, but the higher laws that are going on, we don't really know. So Krishna explains, and on the other books like Bhagavad Purana, it's explained that there's one supreme controller, and he has many agents, just like in the government. There's so many departments. There's a cabinet in the federal government, and then there's a huge bureaucracy. It's called a bureaucracy. So each member of that bureaucracy has a certain role, a certain function. For instance, there's the Department of Defense, so-called, right, which is meant to keep us safe, right? And they get a certain budget, and there's a huge bureaucracy in that alone. And there's also the the Department of the Interior, which makes sure the parks are okay and all kinds of things like that. There's a lot of different departments. So similarly, this whole creation has a supreme intelligence that has arranged things. And so there's this one God, or Ishvara, called a Parameshvara, the supreme controller. And then there are other, what we call demigods, devas. And we can't see the controller or the controllers, but we can see the results of some of the organization. Like for instance, the heavenly bodies, the sun is coming up just at the right time, and we can predict exactly when the sunrise is. If anyone has an iPhone, you can get an app for that. You know exactly when it's, and the weather, right, is being controlled. Right? So where is that organization coming from? There's intelligence behind it. And there are persons behind it with greater powers than we know, and we call them demigods. So Krishna is saying, if you want the ultimate good, which is easily defined as breaking out of this round of birth and death that we've been imprisoned in, then you need to worship me. I can give that to you. And he says several places, once coming to my kingdom, you don't have to come back again. No more birth, no more death. But, as he just said a couple of verses back, in text 20 and 21, if you go to one of these demigods' planets, then it may be, you live a long time, it must be, a much better situation. But eventually you have to die there also and come back down to this earth. So you really haven't moved along the path to your goal in life, which is to break out completely from the round of birth and death. So he explained that in very graphically in text 20 and 21 when he described how a certain section of the Vedas, of the Vedas, these traditional Vedas, deal with worship of the gods and certain sacrifices you can perform in order to go to the heavenly planets. Oftentimes Indraloka is one of the destinations. And if you actually get up there, you'll live for a long time, you'll enjoy much more. And as Krishna describes it here, Ashnanti divyan divi deva bhogan. Divi is the word that means divine. It's the same word. Divi deva bhogan means godly delights. You can enjoy there for a long time. And so he says in the next verse, 21, Tetam bhuktva svarga lokam vishalam. Vishalam means very broad and very deep enjoyments. In svarga loka, that's heaven. But you got up there because you were very pious and you practiced these sacrifices according to the Vedas. But once that punya, it's called punya, is like in the bank. Just like you have bad karma, you're going to have good karma. And good karma is called punya. So you're spending it up in the heavenly planets. So chine punye, when it becomes exhausted, chine, then martya lokam vishanti, you return again to this world, and Krishna very graphically calls it the world of death, world of birth and death. So therefore you don't make any progress. Gatagatam, you're coming and going, like a famous Ferris wheel. Don't we have a Ferris wheel down here? Isn't there one? I think there's a park. Yeah, this way. All right, okay. So everyone knows the Ferris wheel, right? You go up, and then you come down. You go up, and then you come down. So it's useless. Now in the last verse we read, text 22, Krishna says, on the other hand, if you just worship me with one pointed mind, I'll provide everything you need and your security. And what's most important, at the end of life, you'll come to me and no more coming back. That's the advantage. This is an eternal world, paradise. So here he's going back again and he's saying, those who worship the gods actually worship me indirectly. Because think of it as a big tree. Right, the tree of creation. So Krishna is the root of that tree. All the energy is coming from him. Everything is expanded from him. And just like an ordinary tree, if you water the root of the tree, then the water can be absorbed, and all the branches, fruit, flowers, and leaves will be nourished. That's how you water a fruit or any plant. So the gods are just like the fruits and the different parts of the tree. You don't water them directly. You don't worship them directly. You worship the root of the tree, and then everyone is satisfied. So there's a verse. What is it? I can't believe I forget this verse. But basically it says, just as if you water the root of a tree, everything is nourished. If you feed the stomach, then all the limbs are nourished. Similarly, if you worship Krishna, then all the demigods are satisfied and everything works nicely. But if you don't, if you try to worship the gods separately, you're worshiping avidhi, means not according to the standard rules and regulations in the scripture. And so you won't get the desired result. Now in the 7th chapter, Krishna describes the one who's truly in knowledge. You may cultivate this real knowledge, birth after birth. Bahonam janmanam ante, after many, many births, you will understand that there's nothing in existence but God and His energies. You see? Vasudev is everything, and you surrender. You worship Him exclusively. On the other hand, kamaistaista jnana papadyante anya devata. The word anya devata is right in this verse, same words. Means those whose intelligence, whose knowledge is stolen away by material desire. Kamaistaista, there are different varieties of material. They worship other gods according to their own particular nature. And then he says, whatever you want to worship, yo yam yam tunu bhakta shraddhayachitamichati. What you want to worship, if you want to worship Shiva, you want to worship Durga, you want to worship Kali, Ganesh, the whole panoply of gods, then if you really want to, I'll make your faith strong, and you'll worship that. Now that goes for atheists too. Everyone's worshiping something. In the Bible, isn't it said you worship mammon? Mammon is money, material wealth. You got to worship the material energy, and you try to get all your benefits from that, and you don't believe there's any God behind it. Who needs that? We know, we do our experiments. You see? But Krishna says, those who worship anyone else but me, they may get some goals, they may get some results, but it's actually coming from me. People don't understand that. And antavattu palamtesham, these material benefits are temporary. You may get it, but then it's gone. That's called antavat. It has an end. And therefore, tadbhavat ulpamadisam. Here's the verdict. Ulpamadisam's not very intelligent. Because as eternal living beings, we should fix our aspiration for the eternal, not the temporary. Because the temporary just keeps us bound to this temporary world and temporary body to go around again for birth and death and old age and disease. We're not making any progress. So, Devan Devejo Yanti Madbhakta Yanti Mamiti. Those who worship the gods go to the gods, but then they come back again. But those who worship me come to me and don't come back. This was in the 7th chapter. So this is a similar passage, and this phrase, Avadi Purvakam, Srila Prabhupada would often refer to that. The worship is going on, but it's not according to the standard rules and regulations that Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. Ultimately, he'll come to the point at the end of the 18th chapter, Sarva dharma padachaja mamikam sharanam bhaja. Surrender only unto me. Give up all other dharmas, whatever else you're worshipping. I will clear all of the accounts of your karma, and you'll come to me. Everything will be fine. That's what the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is. And anyone who tries to screw out any other meaning to it is actually not being faithful to the text. This is the ultimate import of the Bhagavad Gita. And that's reiterated in this chapter in several places. In the last verse, Ananyaschintaya, just think of me one-pointedly, without deviation. And at the end of the chapter, he says, just think of me, become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage to me, you will certainly come to me. I promise this. Promise you this. That's a similar verse in the 18th chapter. So, any questions on text 23? We can move on. 24. He continues this theme of exclusive worship for Krishna. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhoktacha prabhurevacha natu mam abhijananti tatpenataschavanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Purport. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances. Yajna means a sacrifice. There are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Yajna or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. There's the same idea, antavat. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. Now, what Prabhupada is referring to there is another section in the 7th chapter, where Krishna describes 4 kinds of people who come to him and 4 kinds who don't. And among those who are pious, you have to be somewhat pious to approach God. He lists these 4 categories. Chatubadha bhajante mam, jana sukritanor arto, jigyasur, artarti, gyani cha vadatarshava. There are 4 classes generally of pious people who approach me. The first is the distressed. This is a very common reason in which people approach God. Just like that famous statement, there's no atheists in the foxholes. You know, when you're in danger of your life, right? The long time they say, God, help me, save me. Maybe there is a God. I mean. So that often is an impetus for approaching. Or those who are curious about God, if they're spiritual, those who are in search of knowledge, and those who are in search of some material thing, wealth or whatever it is. You know, people. That's part of being in distress. You can't pay the bills, you know, your kid is sick, whatever. You know, so you go to church regularly or once in order to pray, you know, please save me. So that's fine. In other words, that's not pure devotion. Pure devotion is to go without any material motivation and simply to pray to Krishna for one thing and one thing only. Pure devotional service, loving devotional service. That's the highest goal. But better to go to Krishna for these material means than to not go at all. To either go to just try to do a material or to go to the gods. Because if you come to Krishna for any reason at all and focus on him with any kind of material prayer, then he'll automatically attract you. And at a certain point, that material motivation can be purified. You come to him for one motive, but it's transformed, because the heart is never static, there's always changing. And the perfect example is Dhruva Maharaj. He came to Vishnu, he performed severe austerities to get a kingdom greater than his grandfather's. And after 6 months of intense sacrifice and yoga and meditation and chanting, just the invocation verse he was chanting, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he was chanting that. It's the name of Krishna, Vasudev. He was completely purified. And so when Vishnu came before him, he just went into ecstasy. And he said, I don't care about the kingdom anymore. That kingdom that I wanted, you know, is like a piece of broken glass compared to this wonderful jewel of your darshan. But he still had to get the kingdom anyway. He ruled, but then he went back to Godhead. So this idea that Krishna is the only enjoyer of the sacrifices, he's meant to be the only enjoyer. And if we recognize that, then we can practice this process of sacrifice and bhakti with Krishna in mind. Now in this age, what is that yajna? What is that sacrifice to be performed? Well, first of all, in previous ages, you know, or even in this age, you'll find elaborate sacrifices, fire sacrifices, pouring into precise pronunciation of the Sanskrit. We'll have a real hard time with that if we had to do that, right? And engaging all these qualified Brahmins, very pure. No one's going to do that today. You know, it's practically impossible. Certainly out of India, you're not going to find the requisite Brahmins or the ghee or anyone who knows how to pronounce the mantras. What to do? Well, luckily it's been made very easy by Krishna in the form of Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya. He's the founder of this movement, actually. And he says, just practice the Sankirtan Yajna, the sacrifice of chanting the holy names, which I will have a little sample after the class in front of the deities. Congregational chanting of this particular mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. You don't have to engage hundreds of Brahmins, you don't need any ghee, it's free, you know. Where's the sacrifice? Yes, you have to sacrifice your time and you have to have some faith, otherwise you're not going to perform. But that is the greatest sacrifice. In this age, those who are truly wise, they worship this age, even though it's Kali Yuga, because it's very important. It's a special Kali Yuga. It's the Kali Yuga where Krishna appears as Chaitanya and teaches how to worship himself through the chanting, the easy process of chanting. So that only comes around once every 8,600,000,000 years. So how fortunate we are. People are hoping to win $10, $12, $100 million in the lottery, but the chances of being born just a mere 500 years after Krishna appears as Chaitanya are much higher than the lottery, and we won that lottery. We just have to cash the ticket by chanting the holy name. It's free. You don't even have to invest any money. But you have to invest your time and your faith and your voice. Yes, that's true. So that Sankirtan Yajna is the sacrifice, and it should wholly be performed for the pleasure of Krishna, for one reason and one reason only: the desire to be purified and to return to Krishna and serve him with love. So that's these two verses. He says, "Don't worship the gods, just worship me." And if you don't, then you're going to fall down, means you're going to stay bound up in birth and death. Okay. Any questions on this verse? We can do one more. Still he's talking about worshipping the gods, but now he brings it home to worshipping himself. This is another very famous verse. Yanti deva vrata devan Pitrin yanti bhatrivrata Bhutani yanti bhuteja Yanti madhyajinopimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. Purport. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Purnamasi. These are vividly described in the fruit of activities portion of the Vedas, which is known as the Karma Kanda, which portion recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pita planets by performing a special yajna. Pitas are the forefathers. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pishacha. Pishacha worship is called black arts or black magic. Now we're into Tantra. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pitas achieve the Pita planets, or by practicing the black arts achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotees not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahmajyoti. That's the impersonal effulgence. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. So, if you want to travel in this world, what do? You find out about different interesting places to travel. I'm sure there's a whole department of tourism in SanDiego that puts out advertisements, all over the country and maybe even the world, trying to get people to come to SanDiego. And they put the best face on SanDiego. The weather is sublime, we have all these beaches, and here's this world-class zoo, and every other thing. And so people say, that sounds interesting. We've already been to Disneyland, so let's go to SanDiego and check out the zoo. So they perform the sacrifice. The money. They have to make money. And they buy the tickets and get everything ready. And they can go for a while. Then they have to go back to work, right? So people are going to places they want to go all the time after hearing about the glories of it. The problem is that where are you going to get reliable information about this spiritual world that we've heard of? So that we want to go there. Otherwise, we'll be absorbed in trying to go in different places here. And so therefore, there's a book called the Bhagavad Purana, otherwise known as Srimad Bhagavatam. And our spiritual master took it upon himself to begin translating that back in 1960 or so. And through his career, as worldwide preaching career, he finished about 2/3 of it. It's vast, 18,000 verses, and he wrote with commentary and very carefully translated each word. So in that book, there is so much philosophy expanding on the same points as Krishna teaches here. But there's also what's called the 10th canto, or 10th section, which is the longest, which describes the replica of the spiritual world, known as Vrindavan, and Krishna's activities when he came 5,000 years ago. So you can get some idea of what's in store in the spiritual world. And in addition, there are other books such as Brahma Samhita where we get some description of that spiritual world. And the basic principle is that
It's a world beyond death. That's the first thing. There's no time there. There's a little description in the Brahma Samhita. He says, Shriya Kanta Kanta Kapadama Purusha Kalpatanavo Druma Bhumis Chinda Managana Mahi Tohimamatam Kata Ganam Natim Kamanam Apivangshi Piyasaki Chidanandam Joti Padamapitadasvajam Apicha Sayatra Chiradi Sravadi Sarabim Justice Umahan Nimesha Dakyo Vajati Nihiyatra Pisamayak Vajeshveta Dvipam Tamahamiha Golokamitiyam Vedantaste Sanda Chidibadachara Kadipaye. So, don't you want to go there? Maybe I should translate it. So in the in the spiritual world, there's all these goddesses of fortune, these beautiful maidens, ladies, who are purely spiritual. And Krishna is the supreme male there, he's enjoying. So the Shriya Kanta Kanta Padama Purusha. And all the trees are desire trees. The trees that always are in bloom, and you can get any fruit organically grown and tree ripened from that tree and offer it to Krishna and take the remnants. Unlike the trees here, we just every day we offer 8 ounces of dried, organically grown, tree ripened apricots to Krishna. We've been doing that for a couple of years, myself and Mahabharat, and now Jagannath Tirtha, we're helping out. But it's not so easy to get them. We discovered that, now they're not available at the same price from the same source. We have to scramble to try to get them. We may have to get them. So they're not always available. But in the spiritual world, the beautiful, ripest, tastiest mangoes are available on that from this tree. So at Kalpa Druma, the ground is not ordinary ground, but it's made of Chintamani gems. This is a special gem that pervades everything. And the water is nectar. Every step is a dance. Every word is a song. You can always hear that incredible flute sound of Krishna's playing, which is not ordinary, it's completely spiritual, in the distance. And everything is glowing with the spiritual ananda effulgence, which means the blissful effulgence. And then it says in the next verse, there's these cows, Surabhi cows, which are so blissful that they're always pouring milk from their udders, is overflowing and muddying the ground. There's no time there. There's no past or future. It's the eternal present. Nobody gets old. Nothing changes. But there's a variety of pastimes that makes it interesting at every moment. So this is Goloka Vrindavan. This is Krishna's home planet. And it says it's known only to a very few pure souls who walk upon the earth. So this is just a little hint of that world. But one can be attracted to go there by hearing about it and also by serving Krishna. He inspires one within to practice the principles of bhakti yoga and become qualified to enter there. So that's where we can go if we worship Krishna. If you worship the gods, then you take birth amongst whatever demigod their planets. They all have their own abodes. They're much nicer than the earth, but they're nothing like a Loka Vrindavan. Then you can work with the ancestors. There's a planet of Pitri Loka, where there's those who are overseeing the ancestors. It's complicated. And then the worship ghosts and spirits. I remember when I lived in Miami, we had a lot of devotees come up from Brazil, and they would tell us about the kind of things that go on down there. You hear about them. They go out in the forest and they're worshiping a tree, and there's a cigar, and they're offering abominable things. Mode of ignorance, and in this way they're getting some kind of powers. In India they have the same thing, the lower tantra worship, where you can worship these ghosts and spirits to get power to conquer your enemy and all this kind of cast spells, evil spells. This is reality. But where are you going to go? What's the result of that? You go to where those ghosts and spirits are, And if you worship Krishna, you go with him. So we make a choice. How we worship means you put your attention on something, you invest your faith and your energy. It's like the scientists, the complete atheists, they're worshiping Krishna through the material energy. We're trying to manipulate now, now the AI is coming to so many robots. Every day, there's new development in robot technology, And it's supposed to make life easier for humans, but instead it just throws them out of work. Right? And so you have this underclass of people who have no work. So they're worshiping the material energy, and they're going to get a result from it, but it's not going to be blissful. It's demonic. So, this is, as Prabhupada said, this is a very important verse. Because it means that you choose your destiny by what you worship. Everybody's worshiping something. You're putting your faith in something. Maybe in the lower modes, in intoxication or something. But that's a very dark path, and the future becomes very dark then. The Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness is the path of light. Tamasi ma jyotirgama. Don't stay in the darkness, come to the light. Mrityu ma amitam gama. Don't stay with death, come to immortality. And asato ma sadgamaya, famous line, don't stay with the temporary, come to the eternal. So this is how we can travel to the light, eternal, and deathless world. Shall we read a little Krishna book? It's exciting. We're in the rasa dance. All right, so on Monday we'll continue with text 26, which is a very famous verse, especially for those who like prasadam, and who doesn't? Patram pushpam palam dvayam. Okay, so now, forging ahead with the rasa dance, bravely. And what we're reading now is Hare Krishna. This thing is what's called a summary study of the 10th canto of that book I was mentioning, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's all about Krishna's Leela, and his most famous Leela is his dancing with the gopis. So we happen to be in that section of the book, and we'll continue with that. Just give me a section here. Okay. So we're in the songs of the gopis, in separation. O Lord, sing the gopis, your attractive eyes like the lotus petals are so nice and pleasing. Your sweet words are so fascinating that they please even the greatest scholars, who also become attracted to you. We are also attracted by your speaking and by the beauty of your face and eyes. Please, therefore, satisfy us by your nectarian kisses. Dear Lord, words spoken by you or words describing your activities are full of nectar, and simply by speaking or hearing your words, one can be saved from the blazing fire of material existence. Great demigods like Brahma and Shiva are always engaged in chanting the glories of your words. They do so to eradicate the sinful activities of all living entities in the material world. If one simply tries to hear your transcendental words, one can very quickly be elevated to the platform of pious activities. For the Vaishnavas, your words give transcendental pleasure, and saintly persons who are engaged in distributing your transcendental message all over the world are first-class charitable persons. This is all one verse. This tapakatam itam taptajivanam kababadiditam kalamashapaham. It's a famous verse. Lord Chaitanya heard this verse by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he embraced him and said, "You are the most munificent." So this was confirmed, Prabhupada gives a little comment here, this was confirmed by Rupa Goswami when he addressed Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent incarnation, because he distributed the words of Krishna and love of Krishna free of charge all over the world. The gopis continued, "Dear Krishna, you are very cunning. You can imagine how much we are distressed simply by remembering your cunning smile, your pleasing glance, your walking with us in the forest of Vrindavan, and your auspicious meditations. Your talks with us in lonely places were heartwarming. Now we are all aggrieved to remember your behavior. Please save us. Dear Krishna, certainly you know how much we are saddened when you go out of Vrindavan village to tend the cows in the forest, how we are afflicted simply to think that your soft lotus feet are being pricked by the dry grass and the tiny stones in the forest. We are so attached to you that we always think simply of your lotus feet. O Krishna, when you return from the pasturing ground with the animals, we see your face covered by your curly hair and dusted by the hoof dust of the cows. We see your mildly smiling face, and our desire to enjoy you increases. O dear Krishna, you are the supreme lover, and you always give shelter to surrendered souls. You fulfill everyone's desire. Your lotus feet are worshipped even by Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. On whoever worships your lotus feet, you without a doubt always bestow your benedictions. So kindly be pleased with us and keep your lotus feet on our breasts, and thus relieve our present distress. Dear Krishna, we are seeking your kisses, which you offer even to your flute. The vibration of your flute enchants the whole world, and our hearts also. Kindly, therefore, return and kiss us with your mouth of nectar. Thus ends the Bhagavatam purport of the 31st chapter of Krishna, Songs by the Gopis. So we'll begin the next chapter, entitled Krishna Returns to the Gopis. When Lord Krishna finally reappeared among the assembled gopis, he looked very beautiful, just befitting a person with all kinds of opulences. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavi. Krishna alone is not particularly beautiful, but when his energy, especially his pleasure energy, represented by Radharani, expands, he looks very magnificent. The Mayavad conception of perfection and absolute truth without potency is due to insufficient knowledge. Actually, outside the exhibition of his different potencies, the absolute truth is not complete. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa means that his body is a transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge. Krishna is always surrounded by different potencies, and therefore he is perfect and beautiful. We understand from the Brahma Samhita and Skanda Purana that Krishna is always surrounded by many thousands of goddesses of fortune. The gopis are all goddesses of fortune, and Krishna took them hand in hand on the bank of the Yamuna. It is said in the Skanda Purana that out of many thousands of gopis, 16,000 are prominent. Out of those 16,000, 108 are especially prominent. Out of those 108 gopis, 8 gopis are still more prominent. And out of those 8 gopis, Radharani and Chandravali are even more prominent. And out of those 2 gopis, Radharani is the most prominent. When Krishna entered the forest on the bank of the river Yamuna, the moonlight dissipated the surrounding darkness. Due to the season, flowers like the kunda and kadamba were blooming, and the gentle breeze was carrying their aroma. Due to the aroma, the bees were also flying in the breeze, thinking that the aroma was honey. The gopis made a seat for Krishna by leveling the soft sand and placing cloths over it. The gopis who were gathered there had almost all been followers of the Vedas. In their previous births, during Lord Ramchandra's advent, they had been Vedic scholars who desired the association of Lord Ramachandra in conjugal love. Ramchandra had given them the benediction that they would be present for the advent of Lord Krishna, and he would fulfill their desires. During Krishna's advent, the Vedic scholars took birth in the shape of the gopis in Vrindavan. As young gopis, they got the association of Krishna in fulfillment of their previous birth's desire. The ultimate goal of their perfect desire was attained, and they were so joyous that they had nothing further to desire. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. If one attains the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he has no desire for anything. When the gopis had Krishna in their company, not only all their grief, but their lamenting in the absence of Krishna was relieved. They felt they had no desire to be fulfilled. Fully satisfied in the company of Krishna, they spread their cloths upon the ground. These garments were made of fine linen and smeared with red kumkum, which had decorated their breasts. With great care, they spread a sitting place for Krishna. Krishna was their life and soul, and they created a very comfortable seat for him. Sitting on the seat among the gopis, Krishna became more beautiful. Great yogis like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or even Lord Shesha and others always try to fix their attention upon Krishna in their hearts. But here the gopis actually saw Krishna seated before them on their cloths. In the society of the gopis, Krishna looked very beautiful. They were the most beautiful damsels within the 3 worlds, and they assembled together around Krishna. Krishna seated himself beside each of the many gopis, and it may be asked herein how he did this. There is a significant word in this verse, Ishvara. As it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Ishvarak Sarvabhutanam. Ishvara refers to the Supreme Lord as the Supersoul, seated in everyone's heart. Krishna also manifested this potency of expansion as Paramatma in this gathering with the gopis. And we will resume that on Monday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome. We're going to have a little ceremony in front here. Can you stay for a few more minutes?
Okay.
Great. How about you, Suresh? Can you stay for a few more minutes?
Yes.
I'm not even going to ask Marcy.
Yeah.
She'll stay for a few more minutes. I said, no, because it takes,
And they
long as it takes to pull these up and put it in the closet. We all have our routines.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Now they're having the festival of Holy Name.
Oh yes, I need to go for that.
I'm talking to him, but his card thing, like us, came out.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I was there for a few of those. Somewhere we'll get there.
Yeah.
I can take a little, I can take a photo.
Oh, okay.
I certainly can take that one.
Bob, can you help with the seat? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your name?
David.
David?
David.
David, nice to meet you, David. Is this like for a school assignment or something?
I was actually just interested in learning more.
Let me guess, you visited once at the lounge? You haven't been over there?
No.
Actually, tomorrow night is a nice time to come. It's a little less formal, it's a little more chanting, reading prasadam. You might enjoy it. It's about the same time, 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you a student?
Yes, I am.
Uh-huh. So does this come up in school, or is this your own curiosity? You got
It's come up in school, but then I wanted to
Okay. All right, good. So we have what we call the deities, which are like these carved forms that represent the different spiritual forms that we work with. So you see them, and they really dress in these nice, walk in the street. And at the end, you can have some of those that are very nice too. Okay? Yeah, this is the late 30s.
Thank you.
Here. My name is Dravida, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
I say a lot of things wrong. I say a lot of things incorrectly. So, finish decorating here.
That's veggies dinner. Just now.
Krishna Krishna.
Don't put them in the corner because you're gonna have to move these when the tables come in tomorrow anyway.
What?
I put it in the corner, don't push them in the corner.
Oh, okay.
You know, because they have to clear everything out before the tables in here.
Outside?
Just leave them like this because tomorrow, Ellis has to go, so they clear all the tables in here for people to sit down. Yeah, so just leave them like this.
You know what tomorrow is, right?
Thanksgiving.
You know now.
You know what today is? What?
The day before Thanksgiving.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Ganapa.
Then Thanksgiving, then
Krishna Kirtana Gana. Krishna Kirtana Ganana Ganapa Premamrita Vanidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Prabhu Premamritam Vanidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karo Nemar Karamu Pujito Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhuvi Bhuva Bhara Taraku Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalaku Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopalaku